Hello, everybody, and good morning. This is Jared Lacey, and today's date is February the 12th, 2014. And I'm going to be reading one of my favorite poems by one of my favorite poets this morning. Today's featured poet goes by the name of Honoree Jeffers. Miss Jeffers is a native Southerner, like myself. She was born in 1967. She grew up in Durham, North Carolina, and was also raised in Atlanta, Georgia. She received her MFA in creative writing at the University of Alabama. She taught English at various colleges and universities. When I stumbled upon her, it was between the year 2000 and 2004, definitely sometime before I started working at my hometown's newspaper in customer service. I was at the library and I wanted to look for some Southern writers I've never heard of, and I was in the audiovisual section of the library, which is on the first floor, and I stumbled across a VHS video. Yes, they still had some of those around. They're nowhere around now, but they had them. And I wish I knew the title of that particular video, but I remember being introduced to Miss Jeffers for the first time via that, and she read from some selections from one of her books, which I purchased a few years back, entitled The Gospel of Barbecue, which I have right here, and I'll be reading from that. Let me see if I can get a good picture of that. This blasted light in front of me is not giving me a good picture, but there it is, The Gospel of Barbecue, and I will be reading the poem in question with the said title. To continue on, to continue about Miss Jeffers, one of the major things when I was at the library, I did stumble upon that, and upon learning about her, one of the things that really stood out is that she won the Stan and Tom Wick Poetry Prize in 2000 for I think this very collection of poetry, as a matter of fact, and the late Lucille Clifton, the poet, the famed poet, was a judge at this contest. Miss Jeffers currently teaches at the University of Oklahoma, and she's been a teacher there since 2002. She is the associate professor of English and creative writing coordinator. Many of her works have appeared in many magazines and anthologies, maybe some journals. I know, let's see, among them were the African American Review. Let's see, Identity Crisis, Contemporary Writing About Learning to Be American, Crab Orchids Review, just to name a few. There's so many of them. I do have links at the bottom of the poem, which I will also post for those who'd like to follow along, and I hope I do this poem justice. I'm going to read, of course, my favorite poem, one of my favorite poems from this particular book, The Gospel of Barbecue, of course, entitled The Gospel of Barbecue. Let me give you a little bit about the poem. The poem discusses an uncle of hers who, discusses an uncle of hers who loves soul food, like a lot of Southerners. And the poem is a dichotomy. It's a dichotomy going back and forth in time a little bit, where she talks about how the African Americans were pretty much introduced to soul food, and how it affected her uncle currently. Well, at least that's my interpretation. The Gospel of Barbecue, for Alvester James. Long after it was necessary, Uncle Vess ate the leavings off the hog, doused them in vinegar sauce. He ate chewy abominations. Then came high pressure. Then came the little pills. Then came the doctor who stole Vess's second sight, the predication of pig's blood every fourth Sunday. Then came the stillness of barn earth, no more trembling at his step. Then came the end of the rib. But before his eyes clouded, Uncle Vess wrote down the Gospel of Barbecue. Chapter 1. Somebody got to die with something at some time or another. Chapter 2. Don't ever trust white folk to cook your meat until it's done to the bone. Chapter 3. December is the best time for hog killing. The meat won't spoil as quick. Screams and blood freeze over before they hit the air. Chapter 4, verse 1. Great-Grandma Mandy used to say, food you was whipped for tasted the best. Chapter 4, verse 2. Old Master knew to lock the ham bacon chops away quick, or the slaves would rob him blind. He knew a padlock to the smokehouse was best to prevent stealing, but even the slariest of slaves would risk a beating for a full belly. So Christmas time he gave his nasty leftovers to the well-behaved. The head, ears, snout, tail, fat back, chitlins, feet, ribs, balls. He thought gratitude made a good seasoning. Chapter 5. Unclean means dirty, means filthy, means underwear worn too long in summertime heat. Perfectly good food can't be no sin. Maybe a little bit of meat on ribs makes for lean eating. Maybe the pink flesh is tasteless until you add onions, garlic, black pepper, tomatoes, soured apple cider. But survival ain't never been no crime against nature or maker. See, stay alive in the meantime, laugh a little harder, go on, and gnaw that ball clean. Well, like I said, I hope I did this justice. Got a little sturdy, got a little shaky there at the last part of this. But I really like this poem. I love that little shift in time there, again, where it talks about how a little bit how the slaves were introduced to, the African American slaves were introduced to soul food, and how her Miss Jeffers' uncles was affected by it today. I'd have to stress or take a guess to say that he was suffering from diabetes, given the two clues that she gave in the beginning of the poem when she talked about the little pills and the doctor's visits and his vision starting to be affected. I believe those are some of the signs of diabetes. I'll have to do a little bit of research, but I do know that those are some of the signs. And I also wrote a poem using one of the lines of this particular poem as a title. But again, I really like this poem, among many others. Miss Jeffers also published several other books as well. So again, I have links at the bottom if you want to learn more about Honoree Jeffers. And please let me know what you think about this particular poem. If you do like it, if you have opinions about other poems I've written, please ask questions and give those opinions. Comment. I love that. Again, this is Jared, and I thank you guys for listening. Until next week.